Good morning, everybody. This is Keith Salmon on the Million Dollar Story series. It is Friday morning, and for those of you watching the replay, it's whatever day it is when you're watching the replay. So this is the Million Dollar Story series, and I am collecting some people who have great million-dollar stories, and I believe that everyone has a million-dollar story, and it's not a monetary $1,000,000. It's a $1,000,000 story inside the heart that comes out and inspires others. So the whole point of this series is to get people who have made a move in their life and have done some sort of transformation into a place where they can share that story and they can inspire others who may be in a position of going to take that leap or not. And for my belief structure is that if you see the right story at the right time and you're ready to receive that story, it could conceivably, this conversation we're going to have this morning could potentially change your life. So it's with great honor and a pleasure to welcome Vanessa Elise Baker. Good morning, Vanessa.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you're here. So tell me a little bit about yourself, say, like, even geographically. I'm in Santa Monica, California. I love the far-reaching, the far reach that we have in our online presence here. And so where do you live and where do you run your business from?
Yeah, so I am in the Northeast, born and bred, Northeast gal. My family is from Philadelphia and Alabama. So, but I grew up and was raised in New Jersey, about 20 minutes outside of Philly. And I love it. I love the Northeast. I love being able to shoot up to New York, can go to DC. Philly is a stone's throw away. So this is where I've been born. This is where I'm raising my children. But I do like to travel, but I'm a Northeast girl.
That's awesome. So you're a producer, a writer, basically a creative and a model and a host and all kinds of things. And did I say writer? You're definitely a writer. And yeah. So basically between you and me, we have a whole production company right here.
Yeah.
I do some of those things too, and film editing and video editing and storytelling. We're into stories. So I understand that you've got a new show coming up called the Vanessa Show, and we can talk about that and where that idea came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm working with two gentlemen, Paul Tucker and Chad Jenkins, and it was funny. I first met them when I went to audition. For a little bit about my background, I'm a dance instructor as well, and I've been dancing my entire life. So there was a audition coming up for a host of a show called Dance City, and it was going to be on the CW. So I went and I auditioned, and thankfully I got the job. So I was the host of that show, and that's where I met Paul and Chad, and we just all really clicked and connected. And they said, you have a really fun personality, and I saw the way you relate to people, how people relate to you, and the energy. We think you should maybe work on maybe having a show. And I was like, I think I would love that. I think that would be really fun, just talking from the perspectives of my experiences collectively, being a mom, former Miss New Jersey, USA, homeschooling my children, being a model in QVC, just all these different experiences that I have had, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And I love connecting with people. So it was just a win-win. They are super talented. They believe in me and they support me. So the three of us together are producing this show. And it is just a lifestyle variety show, very lighthearted. But there's definitely some serious topics we're going to cover as well. Everything from autism to makeup.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's going to be a great project. I'm excited.
So do you have, could you give me a kind of like a sort of a guest list avatar? Does that make sense? Like who I can imagine it's all kinds of walks of life that will make people feel good by watching and entertaining and hearing about their stories, kind of like what we're doing right now, in a way.
Yes, yes, yes. So I am a homeschooling mom. I was homeschooling even before the pandemic. That was the choice I just made for my children. So when the pandemic happened, nothing shifted for us except for their outside activities. So insofar as academics, it was the same. And so I really saw a lot of my friends having to make that shift. It was very stressful for everybody. So that's a topic we're going to cover today, homeschooling. I have some great friends along with some great groups, organizers, parents that have been homeschooling. So that's a topic we'll cover. We're going to cover, like I said, makeup. Makeup that is completely natural, skincare regimens that are completely natural, no chemicals. I thought that would be a cool topic to talk about. People are looking for healthier versions of everything in life. How to raise tips and insights and wanting to gain experience from people who may be raising a child with autism, bringing awareness to autism. My son is on the spectrum. So I've walked that walk, not knowing what's going on, and then trying to figure out there's a diagnosis, and then putting them in not nursery, oh my gosh, before preschool, when a lot of things start to come out, and the teacher's saying, we're seeing some things that are a little concerning, and just being open to that and walking that walk. So
I think that's
covering autism.
Yeah. I think that's great when you have that actual real life experience, and I can tell you that when we had some of those, I hate to call them issues, but they tell you that they're issues, but they're just sort of like what life is really like, and when a child is growing through things, it's like this really strange moving target that we experience, and by the time he would sort of like develop through something in kindergarten and put him in a different class, and then they'd say, well, let's not stress the academics, and then they'd panic and say he's not getting the academics. It's just like this, this whole thing, and not having that, you having that sort of, this is not easy, but it's something that you can go through type of sharing with your audience is I think really, really valuable. They can look to you as a leader and, someone who's gone through it. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. It was it's interesting. There's so many questions that come up concerning this topic. When do you tell your child that they are on the spectrum? How do you tell them? Do you tell them? I've heard various different ideas. So these are things that we're going to talk about on the Vanessa Show. Everything from, the goings on of being an everyday parent, being a mom and a dad, what that looks like. So it's just, I think, I know it's going to be a show that people can just relate to and just be like, yes, absolutely. I forgot to give my kids dinner too.
Right.
Just like the funny things that maybe are unspoken that happen in everyday life, we're going to talk about.
Right. Well, that's awesome. So so I know that you kind of told us about the idea for the actual show, but about, so you've already kind of had this in your DNA, if you want to call it that. And it's just sort of, this is the time when all of a sudden it's like, it's all this, everything is in sync. Everything seems to be synchronistic. Was there anything like a while back that you were sort of, did you have this like burning desire to get somewhere in your career that again, where we're talking about these transformational sort of moments where there's a lot of people that say, no, you guys should just settle down and, take your place, and these things are for people who have more experience or people who have tons of backing or somehow or another like that. I guess what I'm looking for is some sort of like inspirational thing for our viewers that could say, yes, you can. Let's live in the yes, you can generation here, as opposed to that's not for me, it's for other people. Maybe there's something that you could look at that was like one of those hero's journeys moments where it's like it could go one way or the other. Would you have any of those that you could, I'm basically trying to catch that one person who could be watching today and saying, I'm on the fence. Maybe I should go back to my 9 to 5. Maybe I should do something different, but I've got a burning desire to express myself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So my greatest fear for me in my life is untapped potential. I want to leave this world knowing that I have exhausted or have attempted to the greatest extent exhausted any opportunity of reaching my dream. So that's what drives me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to leave here not knowing or having coulda, shoulda, woulda, thoughts. I feel like I was always interested in connecting with people. I was an English major at Rutgers with a concentration in journalism, my BA in English, and it was great. Right before my last semester of my senior year, I had won Miss New Jersey, USA, and it was an experience that literally changed my life. I was never a pageant girl. Like I said, I was a dancer. They translate over nicely insofar as where can you glean your confidence from, and stage presence and eye contact and performing and promoting and shoulders back and standing up straight. Like all my training really helped me for that. But the speaking and the public speaking and the extemporaneous speaking skills had to develop quickly. Mm-hmm. And no matter how confident you are, those are still skills that you need to hone and practice. And so I did. And I really liked talking to people. I mean, I did every single appearance possible, from political events with governors to farm fairs, car shows, galas, TV shows. I went to LeBron James and his NBA draft party, like just some really cool, glamorous events, and then events that people may not consider so glamorous, but I wanted to do everything. And I learned that this is me. I like connecting with people. I like learning about people. I like hearing people's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very, very fun and inspiring. And my platform was really important to me as well. It was blood donation and the importance of blood donation, because at the time my father had leukemia. And there was a point in his treatment when there was a blood shortage, so he couldn't get the blood product that he needed. And I was like, why is there a blood shortage? And I did my research, and there definitely is. So that was my platform. So it was just the perfect storm for me at that time. And that is what really helped me become aware of my love of talking to people, speaking,
right,
hearing their stories.
So I think that story, there's a little bit of a difference in, like how we're connecting right now is extraordinary to me. It wasn't like this when I was growing up. A long distance person to person telephone call was like pretty spectacular, and correspondence on the news or whatever it was, those were film clips, and they weren't, it was this whole sort of like live correspondence, unless you were watching the lunar landing was, that was a special event, but that was like big time live. So I think that even today, though, we have a kind of a selfie generation that people, young kids are, they're kind of basically born with a cell phone in their hand, and selfies and selfie videos and FaceTime and Facebook, all, what I'm talking about, all that stuff. But it's still a little unnatural for people, especially people who maybe have had those back burner desires, back burner passions that have been untapped. And so I think that you just illustrated to me is that, take it when you can get it. It presented itself to you, and take a step and walk forward through it and get on camera. If that's where we need to start, get on a Facebook Live, get on, even do a video, like say, practice, and get comfortable talking to people. Pretend that this little thing that I'm looking into is sort of like a robot eye, but I'm really connecting with you, and that thing that's in the middle, we just have to get over it. And I think, like you were saying, is like once you get comfortable, you're really talking to people, and we have that naturally. I think that we have a desire to have connection with people, and not making a big editorial statement. I'm just telling you that I really, really relate to that in a completely different way, but it's exactly the same, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Wow. So are you going to be doing your shows? Are they going to be live? Are they going to be taped? Or how's that format of your show going to be?
Yeah, so we're actually working on set design right now. Everything is affected by COVID. So a lot of it would be virtual interviews, some in person if people feel comfortable coming in and being in person. Definitely want to be respectful of my guests. But so a mixture of both. So we're working on finding finishing touches on the set, which is fun. It's exciting to be a part of this creation from the ground up. And I'm hoping and looking forward to building viewership.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing when the shutdown really took place, and you see it in, of course, in your own homes, and then you see it in sort of iconic things that you depend on. And one of the things that a lot of people depended on to see sort of a barometer of, is this thing even real, is, say, when they shut Saturday Night Live down, and then they did it from remotely. It's an interesting study for me in production and editorial and post-production, and seeing knowing the difference of what's live and what's, created in a dramatic television show that's all staged and edited, post-edited, is to see those shows, how they got, they were kind of started a little shaky, and then they got a little bit better, and then they got a little bit better, and then they were really, really hard to tell, that it, besides the studio audience not being there, that the production level just got higher and higher and higher, and everything was pretty great. So just like you say, being on the ground level, there's at least things that we have that people have kind of plowed through some of these things that were at one point a setback, that have maybe turned into an advantage. I have a friend who I had actually on the show a couple of months ago, who created a whole documentary series and was on the verge of releasing it. She's in Nigeria, Kenem, and she decided to just go for it on the virtual, and was completely worldwide in these documentaries and had an excellent way of pivoting back then, right when it happened, to being partially filming herself doing these virtual interviews. It was really spectacular how she did like a 3-way sort of arc to the production. It was quite fascinating, and and the story always wins. If you have the story and you can work around the production elements, and then you just if you can present the story will is the most important thing throughout history, in my opinion, from the cavemen all the way through all the technology. If you've got a good story, people will hang with it.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's great.
Absolutely.
So I noticed, and I'm not sure if you wanted to talk about this at all, but I just noticed that you have a, the wish list. Is that something that you would want to talk about?
Sure. Yeah. So the wish list was a reality docuseries that I started where I had a team of people and we granted wishes to individuals if we could. And it was all about connecting what their wish was and looking in our network and finding a willing donor, sponsor, what have you, to make their wish come true. So what I would like to do is still, but then, when everything happened, you can't really be in touch with, like, our wishes were in person, literally connecting with people, delivering them the wish, having the wish play out, whatever it was. So obviously that was affected, but I would definitely like to bring that back as a segment of the Vanessa Show. And, it was me just trying to restore people's faith in humanity a little bit. Just a little bit.
I love that. Yeah.
It's life is hard. Life is hard, and I think people get discouraged. It was just meant to bring some sunshine into people's lives. But yes, that will definitely be a segment of the Vanessa Show. Absolutely.
Well, I think you will be able to have some like I say, ground level is awesome because you can try some things out, and if they resonate, you can develop them. I think I go back to that Saturday Night Live thing. I studied, some of these shows. Like I would still watch the Seinfeld reruns, and I love just, it's not like they're going to surprise me with the joke or anything like that, but I love the way that I love the way that the show itself as a show developed, from the sets to even from the camera lensing to the characters, how they developed their kind of shtick, if you want to call it that, and how they got better. And so those are things that really interest me, looking at, how someone's mic'd up, or how someone's projecting, or how they're, I just really interested in that kind of stuff. So you'll have some fun with it. And I think that with these formats that you've got, I think that we almost have some freedom to not to experiment with these new things, because you may be a pioneer in finding out, like Kenem had done. She pivoted out of necessity, but it turned into a style that was like something that was really it was just really cool, as if it was planned way before this out of necessity thing kind of happened. So you'll have those opportunities. That's great. Are you going to have some? Are you going to have some music on there some from time to time? I'm hoping.
Sure. I mean, why not? Yeah, absolutely. I would like to incorporate some dance as well. We're throwing a lot of ideas out there with the team and flushing them all through, because it's our show. So we get to do what we want, which is great. And just to speak about, to your point about your friend that, had to make necessary changes, one thing I really try to teach my children, because I'm constantly telling myself, sometimes you just have to make do. You have to turn lemons into lemonade. You have to be resilient. If there's nothing else that I get out of this, I want my children to learn that you can be resilient and you can make it. Do anything. For me, my faith really, really helps me. But just to keep pushing, you have to keep going. You just can't give up. And so I think there's something to be said in being resilient and weathering the storms and the tough times.
And relying on, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it just builds character.
It does build character. I think that in a lot of the things that I've learned, and some of the things that I teach is about story, personal story. It's not so much teaching people how to be a writer or anything like that, but just to believing in their own story has value. Their own story of transformation has value. And when you own your story, as I call it, is sort of that light bulb moment. You own it. You go, hey, this is me. I'm authentic. I'm I've got I'm a great person. You know, I can do whatever my mind and my heart say I can do. Like you're saying to your kids, it's
Mhm.
like you're you know, role model's a tough word, but you are a walking example of what is possible. And it's like if you're stretching to your potential, you become this, well, you know, I hate to say it, but you are a role model. It doesn't,
Mhm.
it's not that you are insisting that people follow in your footsteps, but you're saying, here are the possibilities. I follow my dreams, I follow my passion. And you don't always have to follow someone else's passion. You just inspire others to follow their own passion. And however that
Mhm.
looks, you create leaders by being a leader. And sometimes by default, you become a leader just because you're living your life to that fullest potential, like you're saying. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yes, it
Do you,
is. It is.
yeah. Do you mind if I ask how old your kids are?
Oh, no, no, no. So they're 11 months apart. So for the month of August, they're the same age. And my son is 12.
Hmm.
His name is Noah. And my daughter is 11. Her name is Brooklyn, just like the Pharaoh. See, I told you I'm a Northeast girl.
I, absolutely. Wow, that's awesome. That is great.
Yeah. So Noah
I
and Brooklyn.
That's great.
Mhm.
My
Yeah.
son is just now 19 and my daughter's 22,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
22. I better check that. I think 22.
Yeah.
It's just like on the spot
It
right
all
there.
gets. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It all runs
Uh,
together.
well, because you know what, her birthday's coming up in December. That's right. She's almost 23. That's why I'm a little confused. But it is amazing. You know, that's a very important time that you're spending with them. The homeschooling. You know, it's sort of like, I think the pandemic will bring people. But I know that you were doing that before the pandemic. But it was one of those things early on. It's like the pandemic is going to bring a lot of families really closer together, or if they don't like, you know, beat each other up before that happens.
Yeah.
Boundaries and you know, personal space, all that stuff needs to be figured out before people are all too
Mhm.
piled up on each other to make that work. So you obviously
Mhm.
have got it figured out and nailed down. So that's really great. Um,
Okay. Well, we're trying. We're trying. We actually love. You know, to be completely honest, Keith, we enjoyed that shutdown. Um, not to it is um, tragic. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
mm,
we
mm,
I definitely we had family members that were sick, and it was a scary and sad time. Um, outside of that, for our personal family in our little tiny bubble, we enjoyed having a big pause button on life. It
mhm,
was nice to really just um, relax and rest, to really, really just rest. It was rejuvenating. I needed that because as a parent, I'm sure many parents can relate. You are ripping and running and ripping and running and working and your kids and you're trying to figure out meals and there's doctor's appointments and there's school and there. I mean, it's just so much. And so during quarantine, I said to my sisters, I said, "Am I a recluse? Like, am I an introvert? Because I am so content right now." And they
mhm.
said, "No, you have just been going, going, going so hard for so long that this just is so refreshing to you." I was like, "Okay, good,"
Mhm,
because I like
mhm.
people. I like people, um, and I I just needed the break. I needed the break. It was nice.
That reminded me just, you know, the brain is interesting how it works. And your story about that reminded me of when I first came to California. It was probably my second year. I was working at a film editing company that we did tons and tons of commercials. And this creative team had come in from Detroit. And my boss he was one of the best film editors at that time in commercials. Absolutely. Not even an argument there. But he was on the hamster wheel. We were working so much. I remember at one point we worked, I think 14, 16 weekends in a row. in this summer, and these folks came out. I remember pretty vividly. It was a Pontiac campaign, a big, huge campaign. And we're working, of course, on a Saturday, and these guys were in there, and they were from the Midwest, and they were working on a big car account. And my boss, we sort of like said goodbye to them on the end of the Saturday of working, and he goes, what's with those people? What's with those people?" And I said, his name is Jim. I said, "Jim, they're just nice people. They weren't in the Hollywood, like they weren't into the Hollywood sort of like hamster wheel, frenetic life that my boss was in at that time." And it was just this sort of like vibe that he didn't actually at that time, he didn't recognize what a good vibe was. And so, I think that you had the good vibe during this whole transition into that. And you even yourself start kind of questioned it just a little bit. It's like, am I, no, you're the normal one here, I guess is what I'm saying. I shouldn't say normal. No, there's nothing like nothing's normal ever again. There will never be anything normal, but you're the well-adjusted one, let's just say.
Thank you. Yeah, so, I really considered, I said, as things start, I told myself, as things start to open back up, what am I going to take back on? What am I going to allow back into what's important for me? My early morning prayer and devotion time, without a doubt, has to be there. Working out has to be there. These were things that would just slip because you just wake up and you're like, oh, or at least for me, sleeping, right until that alarm wakes me up, and it's like, my intentions are always there. I need to do this. I need to, have my quiet time. I have to work out. Mm-hmm. And it can just, next thing you know, it's 9:30 at night. I'm not working out 9:30 at night, most of the time. I have it sometimes. And then I'm like, I'm going to have my quiet time, and I'm just going to, and I'm out. It's right. Like, there's my quiet time. Yep, eyelids shut. Just really making sure I connect with my kids, eating together, finding at some point we have to eat together. Maybe it's not every day for us, but definitely a couple times out of the week, just sitting down together and sharing a meal. Now, granted, we do have homeschooling, so we are together for that, but just outside of the school portion of it, because it is school, it's work, you're learning, but just R&R together. Right. It was good. So it's giving me perspective.
Yeah, I think there's a great thing about family. My family was, it was all a little rough and tumble here and there, but there was one thing that was interesting about that era in my life is that when it was dinner time, it was like, okay, everybody wash up for dinner and tuck your shirt in and come and sit down and we're going to have dinner together. And then even if it was just a sanctuary 20 minutes, it was something that anchored the family. And I really missed that. And, throughout the course of my girlfriend's name is Monique. She lives literally about 3 or 4 blocks away. And probably 9.9% of the time, I at least come down, whip up a salad and something to eat. And it's that sit down moment. We were just talking about that the other night about it's time to sit down. And even if it's 15 minutes, it's like, it just sort of like puts you into, it just lets you jump off of that conveyor belt for 2 seconds and get based in some sort of sense of reality. I wonder if quickly you wouldn't mind giving the listener who might be going, there's the person out there, I call them the seeker. They come into, say, the online space, or they're looking around and they've just been seeking their next chapter in their life or anything like that. If you could give them a shot in the arm about anything that's possible, would you be able to kind of give them a hit right now?
I would have to say, you want to live your life with no regrets. Well, what do you have to lose? Someone telling you no? I mean, is that the worst thing? I like to live my life by thinking of what's the worst case scenario? What is my biggest fear? Putting myself in that mindset, having it play out in my mind and being like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad if someone tells me no. Because you know what? There's going to be someone that will tell me yes. And there's going to be people that are going to tell me a resounding yes. You know, you have to just live life because it's so short and it's so precious that you want to make sure you have exhausted it, that you have wrung out every ounce of potential opportunity, potential experience that you possibly could. And don't get me wrong, it's not everything is glitter and unicorns, but what is that worst case scenario? Okay, maybe for me, I do this show. Nobody watches it. Nothing. I keep doing it. People are going to start watching. I will start to gain momentum. Something will happen. It will. That's for all of us. Right. So go for it. I mean, why not? Absolutely, why not? Life is like that. So I'm going to chase my dreams and reach for whatever I can. And thankfully, I've had some really great opportunities. And if there is not a space for you, then you make the space and you show up.
Wow. That was like I wrote that for you. It was awesome. That was terrific. That was not
I have it right here. I have the script right here. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just going to tell you that was not planned, but that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Well, you'll have one person watching. I know that for sure. That'll be me. One person.
Thank
you could just scratch that off the. It's like at the dry cleaners when they have the dollar bill, posted up in the back there. You can have I'll be in there, and we're friends on Facebook. Anything I can do to help spread the word, you just shoot me something and let me know. And what schedules, when it comes out, who's anything I can help you with at all. And
thank you.
If there's anything here, 'cause even when it comes time closer to premiere, we can rebroadcast this conversation that we're having right now. Mm-hmm. And of course you'll have pieces of this, and you're gonna I'm almost stuttering because that little hit that I asked you to do just now was amazing. That's like the goal, lightning in a bottle, as they say. So very, very good. I really appreciate it, Vanessa. And we'll wrap it up here. And if there's any closing, I think you kind of closed it out there, but if there's anything you want to say, the Vanessa Show, what month are we looking at in 2021? Do we know?
We are looking for January 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And yes, thank you for your support, and I really appreciate it. I really, really do. Well,
great. Well, once again, Vanessa Elise Baker, thank you for being on our show. It is called the $1 Million Story Series. Vanessa's got a $1 million story and then some. So this is put together so that we can inspire you to activate your $1 million story and take your dreams and make your dreams come true and help someone else. When you get inspired, you inspire others. So that's the whole purpose of me bringing people like Vanessa on to the show. So Vanessa, thanks, and have a blessed weekend. And like I say, anything I can do, we'll be in touch. Okay. Thanks so much.
I will. Thank you. Thank you. You too. Do the same. Thank you, Keith.
All right. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.